Hello there, my name is Azleon, and today we'll be talking about my OC from DBZ. Her name is Alice Kidd. She's the adoptive daughter of Billy. She currently runs with the Cunning Hares, and where we are with the plot that just happened in it's 2.8 that just happened, she's most likely going to be sticking with Billy, who's sticking with the Proxies, I think. So she'll be there. I'll go over more about what she's done in plot, which basically anything with the Cunning Hares is where she's going to be because she's a member of the Cunning Hares, and she's been running since Billy joined because she's his kid, and they've been together the whole time. She did grow up with Caesar and whoever else was in the Sons of Kaladin at that time. I'm going where she knows most of our OG members, anybody who's not Pulchra. Well, and then the unique bit about Alice is that she has a special ability which allows her, and by special ability, I mean she is technically an ethereal, but she can assume a human form, and she has her consciousness about her. So, she is corrupted, but nothing really happened to her. She just can become an ethereal, and I'll go over all the specifics for that later. I'm going to have a whole section on all the little abilities she has and stuff with that. But her general history, or I guess her general timeline, would be that from when she was born up until she was about 6, she was just a regular kid. She lived with her parents in some place. Then a hollow opened up there, and she was in the hollow from 6 to 8. Around when she was 6, she was in the hollow from 6 to 8. She became corrupted during this time, and she learned a little bit on how to use her powers and how to, become an ethereal and then turn back. She has iffy control at this time. Then from 8 to 10, she goes and ends up in a laboratory for a while. She escapes at 10. From 10 to 12, she's back in the hollow that she was originally in. She's really good at finding that. She liked the place. I mean, that's where she grew up from 0 to 6. And then at 12, she meets Billy, and he takes her out, and then she's with the Sons of Kaladin in the Outer Ring for the next 4 or 5 years. So she's from 12 to 16 or 17. She's with them. She's hanging with them. I'm going to assume Caesar starts the Sons of Kaladin during this time. They're maybe in their early years. And Lucy's recently joined by the time her and Billy leave. Because that's how I feel like Lucy had joined maybe a year prior by the time Billy leaves. And of course they know everybody else because she left with Billy. And then from 17 or 18, 16, 17, or 18, it depends on how long after Billy left the Sons of Kaladin he finds and meets the Cunning Hares. I'm going with pretty quickly, so within the same year that he left the Sons of Kaladin, he meets the Cunning Hares. But yeah, from 17 up until current, which I'm making it a grand total of 7-ish years, because she'll be from 16 or 17 to 24-ish. She's 24 when the series starts, so I guess she's 25 now within the canon. But generally, that's what I'm thinking of. From 17 to 24, from 17 to 24, she's with the Cunning Hares, and 24 is current time. Or at least, the start of the series when the Cunning Hares fall into that hollow. Anyway, before I go more into her histories, I'm going to go over her powers, so you can get a feel for her ethereal form. So her main function, I'm not letting her control ether to a very distinctive extent. She's mostly able to either take it into her or expel it out of her. So she can either absorb or expel it. That's it. Nothing more. Because I don't want to make her too powerful by being able to manipulate ether and do a bunch of stuff with it. I feel like she's just capable of absorbing ether into herself or expelling it out of herself. Now, things with this is that, one, she can uncorrupt somebody as long as they have not fully transformed into an ethereal. So, if you remember how the leader of the Red Fang Gang, I can't remember his name right now, but how that guy, he was mostly corrupted, and how Billy and Ambi were saying he technically can't be cured now because a chorus formed.
His consciousness is still holding on.
It's too late. Ether crystals are forming all over his body. He's already... It's the core! Damn it! He's almost completely mutated!
can reverse that because he still has a mostly human form. Now, after he transformed, which is like 2 seconds after they got there, she can't undo that because they're just too far gone at that point. But anything prior to fully transforming, she can undo. Um, Now, there isn't a limit to how much ether she can absorb, so she could technically absorb all the ether in the world, but she also can't because there's a limit to the amount of ether she can absorb at once without it forcing its way out of her. So, like, how I like to envision it, she's got this little core bubble thing, which will expand with time, but if she tries to inject too much ether into it at once and too quickly, it'll pop and she'll forcibly be transformed into an ethereal. But as long as she takes it in slowly and not too much, she can technically absorb infinite amounts of ether and maintain her human form. Now, the ether in her core is technically locked away within her and has no effect on the outside world unless she lets it out. At least that's how I'm phrasing it. So far, I have her core, which would be her ethereal core around where her heart is. I feel like that works really well. And that's how I'm keeping it. Anyway, so that's how her ether absorption and then expelling the ether can all happen quickly, slowly. It depends on a lot of things. Her emotional state does highly affect how well she can control it. Because if she's stressed or very emotional, some ether will tend to leak out. And depending on how stressed or anxious she is, it can go and affect her environment. But typically, at this point, when she was younger, it was way worse. But, like, at this point, she's good at controlling it. Now, that's, like, the basics of how her absorptions and expulsions works, how much she can take in, and how she can contain it. Now, her ethereal form, I actually don't have that much down for the design. I feel like it was smaller, and as she's gained more ether, she's grown. And I feel like it has shifted over the years because of how much ether she's absorbed, but I feel like the base mode should still be the same. I don't have a concrete idea of what her ethereal form should look like. I almost kind of want it to have a bit of a bear theme, because a lot of the ethereals, their things are partially based off of what was around them, because the ether just absorbed that as well and combined it into their ether form. I feel like when she was little, she had this little stuffed bear, and then, so she's going to have probably like a bear humanoid kind of ethereal form. I don't know, I haven't thought too much on what she looks like. I'm going with she was smaller, and then she got bigger, and her abilities are probably going to be more speed and defensiveness than more attacking, because she really didn't want to fight people in her youth. And she doesn't have control over what her ethereal form looks like. It just comes out the way it does. But I don't know if it'll shift partially depending on her mental state, or partially depending on what's around her when she does transform. Those are some things that I still want to put some thought into, and I haven't fully thought out yet. Now, in terms of, like, mapping things and, like, fairy and being able to sense her as, like, an ethereal, I'm going with, like, in a general sense, if fairy's, like, mapping it and a hollow, she will not come off as an ethereal on that, because technically all the ether is still sealed away in her core, and she will read as human there. So when the map scanning, that's how I have it for now. I may change it, but I think that's going to be how it works. Now, she is detectable if directly scanned. So, like, she was in the same room as Fairy, and Fairy would, like, give her, like, a scan to see how corrupted she is. She would read it as corrupted. The same goes for, like, Chi-Yi. I believe in Chi-Yi's first scene, we see her do exactly that.
Quite extraordinary.
Absolutely. I don't remember seeing anything with such unique traits in the records. Let me take a closer look at it. Looks like there's something inside the crystal.
If she scans Alice, she can tell that she's an ethereal, technically speaking. I will also say, I think if Chi does this, I don't think she's gonna rat on Alice or anything. Like, she never ratted on Faith, and she 100% knew prior to when we told them, Chi and Shuyi. So, I think that's gonna be how it's sensed-wise, which is also why she doesn't actually take any ether corruption tests, or, like, I think ether resistance tests, because I think both of them, one, I don't know what the ether resistance test would read, because I don't know exactly how that works, but I don't think it'd work properly on her, because she isn't ethereal, and an corruption test would just read as corrupted, so she just doesn't take those, and if she needs some sort of documentation with it, Nicole fakes it. Nicole has so many fake documents for her. Now, another thing is, back to, I should have said this earlier, but back to when she's absorbed a bunch of ether, she can force herself to stay in her human form. It takes a lot of effort, and it takes a physically negative toll on her. She'll start coughing up blood, bleeding from the nose, and such forth. If she tries to force herself to stay in her human form after absorbing a large amount of ether. It is very not good for her, and typically she'll pass out and then transform into ethereal if it'll happen. I don't know if she'd be able to just try to resist it so much that it'd kill her or not. Probably not, because it's just her body doing things, so I would think that she wouldn't die from her body doing that. She would just pass out and then turn into ethereal, or she'd be forced to turn into ethereal before it got too serious. But if she does try to resist it, she will be coughing up blood. Now, in terms of, like, if she gets extra durability or stuff from being part of ethereal, I think not really. What she can do is if she gets hurt, she can then transform that part of her body into, like, ether crystals, which would, stop the bleeding. She wouldn't technically be hurt anymore. It does take time to heal. It's not like it's going to instant heal it, but she is able to make void her wounds because just by crystallizing it, and, she'll be fine. It's not like she's going to be corrupted by that. So if she does get some sort of, like, really bad wound that's bleeding a lot, she can just crystallize that area, and it won't be bleeding, it'll just be ether crystals, and she'll be fine. So that's what she can do in terms of, like, heals or whatever. So she technically can't heal herself, and she could technically do this to other people, but she also has no direct control over it. Because if she were to try to push ether into someone, they would just be corrupted, and that doesn't guarantee that a crystal will appear wherever their wound is, so she doesn't ever use it like that. But it does work on her because she has more control over where it is in her own body, but not in anybody else's. So she can't do that as a little bit of extra defense. She doesn't really do it because, well, she doesn't want people to figure out that she's corrupted. She's very against that. And she typically doesn't get that mortally wounded. So she doesn't do it that often, but she can do it. Another thing is that she has a stronger sense of where to find exits and how to find her way around a hollow. Because of ether sense and everything, she can, like, sense the fluctuation and the general flow of ether. She's not as good as, like, a proxy. You can, like, do all the calculation things and map it out. But she has a generally good sense of it, and having been in a hollow and lived in hollows for so long, she does have a general sense of, what ether flow generally leads to an exit, what ether flow generally says there's a fissure in this way. She has a pretty good sense of it, so if she gets lost, she can typically find her way out of a hollow. Now, this is something that I don't know if I'm going to add or not, but that her DNA, if injected into somebody else, because she herself is technically corrupted, it will cause a special type of corruption in whoever it's injected into. So, like, if someone were to take her blood and inject it into somebody else, it would corrupt them, but it'd be weird. And honestly, how I'm thinking would that work is that they would become an ethereal, but they would maintain their consciousness. I don't know if I want to do that or not, have it work that way. It's an idea that's floating around there. It really depends on how ethery I make her human form, because her human form generally is mostly just human. But I don't know how ether-y I am going to make her human form or not. If she is going to be able to do that or not, because I don't know. That's on a debate on whether or not her blood or whatever, her DNA and stuff, if, like, injected into somebody else, would actually cause corruption or not. I'm not sure about that. That's on the plate. I may or may not add it. We'll see. Now, I will specify with the things that just happened in the 2.8 plot. She is not the same as whatever in the world was going on with the proxies. Their thing is clearly ether related, but it seems, I think their transformation is partially connected to Remiel's weapon, And honestly, I cannot wait to learn more about that in season 3. But like, I don't know that much about it yet. But and I feel like after we learn more about that, her stuff may change. But their thing seems to be like a completely separate thing of what I have thought out for her. They're both clearly connected to Ether, and I don't think she's actually going to be able to help the proxies with it because it seems like the proxies' problem is the Ether flow within their own physical form, opposed to um, let me think, opposed to what she's able to do because she's able to draw Ether from them or put Ether in them. She can't help regulate their flow of Ether, so she can't help them because it seems like that's what's wrong with the proxies. I just want to address that real quick. Um, don't know what's up with the proxies. Once I learn more about it, I'll figure out more. Because right now she's with the proxies when it happens to them. And if she ends up being able to solve it, I may end up sending her off with Nicole, Nekomata, and Ambi. Because I can't have her ruining the plot. But I don't think she'll be able to help with it. She will be able to tell some things really weird. Because I think the ether flow in them and the ether in them is probably weird in and of itself. I think she'll be able to tell that, but I don't think she'll be able to help with it. And then I think that's it for all of her powers and general things. For her ethereal form and stuff. I don't know if I'm gonna cut this in somewhere else or what I'm gonna do with it, but I made Alice like forever ago. I don't remember what patch Haramasa came out in, but it was the patch before Haramasa was released. She has been around forever. So many things, as I've played through this game, so many things I'm like, oh look, that's what Alice does. Huzzah! I watched the development of it slowly go by, and I'm like, huh, Louis Alice technically does work with Lure. Because I'm used to OCs that I make and that are weird like Alice, or that have cool powers like Alice, being like retconned, or like it's very easy for me to be like, yeah, she really technically doesn't work here. For Alice, I feel like it's just, as it's gone by, it's like, yeah, no, something, like, the way Alice's stuff works, yeah, no, totally could happen here, which I am so happy about. Very excited. But yeah, Alice has been around forever, which is why she has the name Alice. I know there's already an Alice, but I came up with the Alice name before Alice was released, and I said, I don't care. Alice is still Alice. We'll just have two Alices, which she does end up meeting the other Alice at a point in time. I'll get into that later. But moving on, her story. So this is like the general overview of what's going to happen to her and her basic plot. Okay, let's see. I don't know if I want to go over this in chronological order, if in like... I'm gonna go in from chronological order. Let's see, where did I start that? So, her history prior to canon most likely isn't really going to change. The only shifts will happen is if I get higher confirmation or lower confirmation at what timestamps there are within the sense of calendar. Mostly that's just going to change the ages of the people around her and probably won't change much of her own plot. Now, anything that happens in canon is susceptible to a lot of change because it may shift. Most likely not much from the first 2 seasons, but we'll see. It really depends. But most of her history is probably not going to be changed, but as we learn more about the plot, what she does within the canon, with it, after the game starts, may change. But we'll see. So for now, I have it. She started out. She was a kid, 0 to 6. She just lived with her family, and normal thing. A hollow appeared over her home. Basically, most people turned into ethereals. Maybe some people were able to get out. She herself did not get out, and she was corrupted that day. But she did maintain her consciousness. She didn't become a violent ethereal. She was just a 6-year-old who was an ethereal now. I don't know exactly how long it took her to figure out to regain her human form. I would probably say give her like 3 to 4 months. She just has to will herself to be human. So however long it took the 6-year-old to realize she wasn't human and to want to turn back into a human, that's roughly how long it took her to swap back. Now, if she's in a hollow, she does continuously absorb ether. It's just around you, and that's just what it does. Excuse me. So that will continually happen. She built herself a little fort, most likely in her own home, where, well, what she could find of it because hollows get all messed up. But she hung around there. She was in there for a while. Well, 2 years. 2 years she lived there. Oh, side note, real quick, she does have to eat food when in her human form. She cannot sustain herself off of just ether unless she is permanently in her ethereal form. Now, what I'm going for, and this may end up getting retconned, but we'll see, is that the food, she can still find physical food there because it's not like everything turns into ether crystals in a hollow. So she can find old food and whatnot. Sometimes it's a little bit corrupted, but it's not like it's going to affect her. Corrupted food, I'd assume, would harm a normal person, but wouldn't have any effect on her because she's already corrupted. Yada yada, I think you get it. So mostly she does stuff from that. Occasionally, I would think she'd leave the hollow because she does need to get food, but really she doesn't leave the hollow. She doesn't really know how to exit it. I'm going to say for now that there was enough food to sustain her, or at least enough food that she could find. She could technically, no, probably that wouldn't work. That's what I'm going for now. I'll see if that changes. That's just kind of how I want it to go down. So I'm going to say that generally she had enough food. To be fair, there was like a whole, I don't know, city block or whatever. And, homes, things. Those had food. How did it not go bad? Preserved food. We'll go with that. Or the ether itself technically kept it from going spoiled. That's what I'm going with for now and how she sustained herself because she does need to eat if she's fully in her ethereal form, she's fine. But when she turns back to her human form, she does have to eat. Now, this doesn't mean if she stays in her ethereal form for a year, she's then starving when she turns back into her human form. She's just hungry, because they're on their own type of timers. Her ethereal form, she needs to absorb ether. She doesn't absorb enough ether, she'll be reverted back to her human form. Her human form, she needs to eat food because her human body needs the food. But if she's in her ethereal form, her human body doesn't lose that energy. At least that's what I'm going with for now because I don't know. It may shift a little exactly how that works. I haven't thought that all the way through, but that's side a little rant for how food works and everything. But 2 years she was in the hollow, she was surviving on her own, she really didn't see anybody else. So when she runs into a scientist, which, what happened, let me paint this scene for you. She's, just wandering around the hollow. Maybe she just ran away from some ethereals because she doesn't like encountering them, she doesn't like fighting them, she doesn't like engaging with them. They're scary. And she either ran away as a little girl, she looks partially corrupted. Now, these scientists are around the hollow, they're collecting things, most likely ethereals, for experimentation and such. They see this kid. They decide to approach her. They're acting all friendly. They really just want to kidnap her to experiment on her. They're acting all friendly. This kid hasn't seen nobody for 2 years. She is so happy to see another person. She thinks they're friendly. Now, she has her teddy bear. No, I probably can't let her. Maybe she has her teddy bear. She will be having this teddy bear forever. But she has her little teddy bear. She goes with the scientists out of the hollow. They then take her to a secondary hollow, which is where they keep her lab. This is her 2 years in the lab, where they have their lab. And then after they begin experimenting on her, that's when they realize that she can shift into an ethereal form, and she can shift back into her human form. Like, she has control over the ether flow in and out of her body. Now, after they realize that, they then, so they have like an old hospital building which is together. They probably have some of the stabilization devices around to help keep it all together and keep it all stable. They have multiple layers. They then go into what would be the subfloor basement and reinforce that to make sure she can't escape in her ethereal form. She almost did when they first learned of it, because she was scared of them. They're scary people. They're trying to experiment on her and do weird things. So she almost escaped then. She failed to because she doesn't have full control over her ethereal form and human form. And she's a bit of a mess. She's like 7. She's a baby. 7? No, she's 8. She's a baby. So she really doesn't know what she wants to do. She kind of wants to go back to her little old home, because that's safe. That's always been safe for her. I've just been going with that. That hollow doesn't shift around much, so it's just going to be there. So that's safe for her there, and she wants to go back, but she ends up in the basement area where they have extra security and everything. Now, I will say, she does get stronger over time as she absorbs more ether. yada yada. So for 2 years they experiment on her, and this is where people may end up getting corrupted by her blood and DNA, because the scientists would be using her as to experiment on other people to see if they could get the same results. This is where whatever her things mix may come in. But she's in there for 2 years. She's essentially tortured down there. They constantly draw her blood. They constantly see how she can absorb things, healing stuff. They do their best not to harm her too much because they don't want her to die. They do want to keep this very unique test subject alive. And they very much want to see if they can replicate her. So she's stuck there for 2 years, becomes heavily traumatized by people, specifically doctors or scientists. Anybody in a white lab coat is kind of scary. She absorbed so much ether that she got a lot stronger, and they knew she would get stronger with ether consumption, but they did not realize how much stronger she would be, so their barriers no longer worked, and she then escaped. She left the hollow they were in and went back to her original hollow. They don't ever find her again. She then remains there for the next 2 years. She sees people come and go. She still generally doesn't attack people. Frankly, she's more scared of humans now than she was prior. Frankly, she hadn't seen any people prior to then. She still doesn't run into many people. So she hangs around there for another 2 years. Then one day, Billy shows up. Now, I'm gonna go with currently, he was maybe chasing some thugs or something. He was doing something. I don't know if Paladin would still be around right now, but he was doing something in the Outer Ring, and he ended up in her hollow. She is in her human form at that time. Now, I will say, after she was with the scientists, she tended to stay in her ethereal form more than her human form, especially because she has a lot more ether in her, and while she can control it, after a time it just becomes easy with the amount of ether she has to shift back and forth. It becomes a new baseline, as I said earlier. But she does tend to spend more time in her ethereal form. She doesn't fully understand why the scientist kidnapped her. She kind of knows, but she doesn't fully get it. She's understanding it more as she's getting older because she was a small child. She didn't really get it. But, around 12, Billy shows up in the hollow. He's not as scary as most other people because he is an intelligent construct, and while he has a humanoid shape, he doesn't really look human. Billy sees her in her little girl form, and he does realize that she can shift into an ethereal. He witnesses it at some point. Most likely she was just in her human form, and then she just turned into an ethereal to go and do something. She has a little bit of control at this point. She has an understanding of it, which she picked up with scientists, because that's one of the things they really wanted her to do, was shift between the two forms a lot. So she learned pretty decently how to control the shifting there. So Billy sees that. He knows that, and he tries to interact with her, because she's just a kid, and he wants to try to befriend her and get her out of the hollow. He does understand that she is clearly an ethereal, but I don't think he'd care too much. He would find it interesting, but he'd also get the kid's clearly traumatized. She was pretty scared the first time she spotted him. She did run away from him. He returns maybe 4 or 5 times before he can actually coax her to go out with him. He brings food, drinks. He's just trying to befriend the skittish child. Right, so like I said, I think it takes him 4 to 5 visits to actually gain her trust enough for her to leave the hollow with him. Again, she has a little more trust for him because she's an intelligent construct. If he looked fully human, she would not be trusting him at all. So she leaves with him, and he takes her back to maybe Blazewood. It really depends on where the group is hanging at that time. I don't know if it would be Blazewood. They clearly spent a lot of time around Blazewood, but I don't know if that's where they always were. It was wherever the Sons of Kaladin group was camping at that point. So he takes her back there, and she does not want to go into the town. There are way too many people. And Billy, being a sweetheart, and Billy's also told Big Daddy about it at this point in time, and Big Daddy's been helping advise him on how to deal with the small child. Billy ends up setting up himself and her a little camp outside of town to where people can visit, Caesar and any other kids that are around. I don't know if Bernice would be hanging with Caesar yet or not. Piper, I feel would be around at this point. And then lighter's a maybe. Lighter may come in a little later. But like, she stays outside of town for a bit. It takes her 3 to 4 months to feel comfortable enough to go into town with Billy. Now she does almost always turn into a. Sorry, I forgot to mention that earlier. She can turn into an ethereal outside of hollows. Because from my understanding of everything, ethereals cannot survive outside of hollows. She can turn into an ethereal outside of hollows. It doesn't generate a hollow or anything. Oh, that's something I forgot to say back in the power area. But or in the future power area that hasn't occurred yet. I don't know. I'm cutting this around, so we'll see. But she, when she turns into, if she uses her ethereal form and she turns into an ethereal while in a hollow, it will actually make the hollow expand. It wasn't much prior to her gaining a lot of ether, which happened after the lab, but her turning into an ethereal form will actually cause it to expand. And then if she turns back into human form, it will shrink. It's kind of noticeable, but not really noticeable when she's younger. As she gets older and absorbs a lot more ether, it's going to be much more noticeable. But the ether doesn't have an effect on the around her while she's in her human form, but if she's in her ether form, it does, and the hollow then has more ether in it and will expand. I hope that makes sense. But yes, she's in Blazewood. They lived in camp outside for 3 to 4 months. Caesar is actually probably the one. I go with they're roughly the same age. Caesar's another little girl. She went out to visit her. Caesar's not as scary. So like the ones she's not as scared of are the kids, because there were no kids experimenting on her. Other kids also got experimented on around her. Big Daddy, because he doesn't look human because he's a siren. Billy, because he's an intelligent construct. So she's pretty comfortable around those people, and they helped her get to going into town a little bit. Now, it does take her like a year to 2 years to become comfortable enough into town to not almost nearly have a breakout of ether on her. Because when she's stressed, she gets the ether crystals forming on her, and that would happen quite often, especially in the earlier days, as she wasn't as comfortable around people. But as she became more comfortable, she got it more under control. It took her a year or two to be able to go into town without almost looking corrupted or becoming an ethereal once or twice or 4 times. So she lives out there with them for, 4 or 5 years. So, the first year she's not super into town, but first couple of years, she's not super in town, but the Sons of Kaladin and those people go out to her and hang out with her out there. And I assume they traveled some in this time, and she went around with them. She learned how to ride a bike. She practiced hand-to-hand combat and stuff with the Sons of Kaladin. She hung with them. She got to know them. She bonded. Later 2 years, she's more comfortable around strangers who are human. She is still more comfortable around those who look less human than those who look more human. And anybody in a white lab coat who looks like a doctor absolutely terrifies her, and she refuses to go. She has never once gone on her doctor's appointment. Billy just doesn't take her. But so that's kind of like her general life in the Outer Ring. She does know how to ride a bike. She's been riding that forever. And she bonded with them. Billy leaves to join the Cunning Hares. She goes with him. Now, they go to join the Cunning Hares. They meet Nicole and Andy. I assume they were both together probably at the time Billy joined them. Maybe? I don't know. I'm going with yes. So they both meet them. Nicole and Ambi don't learn about her being able to transform until a little later. I have a feeling, I think most likely Nicole and Ambi learn about her being part ethereal. I don't think they would have been able to spend enough time prior to the Cunning Hares having to run to a situation where they would want to get her corruption, or where they would have told them. Because I think Billy and Alice would have eventually told Nicole and Alice, but I think prior to them actually choosing to tell them, Nicole would insist that Alice gets herself checked somewhere for ether corruption, because they were all in a hollow for an extended period of time, as can happen with them being hollow raiders and scam artists and everything. So then that would prompt Alice to eventually tell. She trusts Nicole generally. She's just not super comfortable telling people at that time. So this probably happens when she's 18 or 19. So she then tells Nicole and Ambi that she doesn't want to go to the doctor. Also, she takes an ether corrupted. She is going to be as corrupted because she is corrupted. So, like, I think that's going to happen at some point in time. She spends time with the Cunning Hares. Hugh, beginning a series, they're running through, they're doing things, Red Fang game, they fall into the Hollow. She's with Billy and Ambi in the Hollow at the time. She's doing her best to help them find a way out, but then it's not like they're also searching for the box. Things happen with the proxies. I don't think much would change via that. I don't think she'd be able to get to whatever his name is, the Red Fang game leader guy, in time. This is also, of course, when she meets Nekomata. She helps him with the thing. Now, I don't think she would try to absorb a lot of ether from the Hollow to get it to shrink. She might absorb some ether from the Hollow to get it to shrink a little bit, but again, she can only do so much without turning into an ethereal herself, and if that happens, it will just make the problem worse. They would still fight the Dead End Butcher. Also, the proxies do not know. The proxies do not know about her unique constitution. They have not told them, and they don't really intend to tell them. If they feel, we gotta tell them, it's kind of imperative to whatever, they will tell them. She's not against telling them, but she's also not like, I'm gonna just tell them. So the proxies are unaware that she can turn into an ethereal. So that's what happens during that plot with the Cunning Hares there. She doesn't do much during the Victoria housekeeping or anything. She, again, just shows up with the Cunning Hares. I'm trying to think. The next time the Cunning Hares show up is, I don't think, they don't do anything major after that I can recall at the top of my head. Oh, Pearlman. She's with them when they're helping with Pearlman. I don't think she'd be doing anything too specific to shift the plot or do anything special. During these times, she's just with the Cunning Hares, and she's just another member of the Cunning Hares. So, during canon events and stuff. She is with Billy during the championship thing. It's what, the Hollow, I don't remember its name, the competition they just did with Cynthia and him. She's registered with them, so they're all there together, as I was saying. And she's with them when the proxies do the thing and all of that. And then maybe Promia. Oh gosh, I think you guys know who I'm talking about. I'll probably throw a picture of her up. But she probably gets a glimpse, same with Ramiel. Both probably get a glimpse of her being crystallized and then not being crystallized. Because I think she would start to transform because she would think, the proxy ethereal form or whatever that was. I think it's just an ethereal form, maybe. I don't know, it might be different. He's about to kill Promelia? I'm not saying her name right. You know who. He is really about to kill her. So she was about to transform into an ethereal form because she knows it's pretty tough, honestly. She's absorbed a lot of ether within her 24 years of life. She's about to do that, but then Ramiel comes and, saves them. So she switches back, but I think both Promia and Ramiel would see the little crystal again. I don't think Cynthia would pick up on it, especially because she's knocked down and everything. Now, again, that part is the most susceptible, and then everything from here on is super susceptible to change. These are just kind of things I want to happen. Now, here's an important fact that I do need to get out there. The organization that kidnaps her and experiments on her when she's a child, I have two options with that. Combine it with a group that already exists, which I haven't found one that matches it quite yet, but maybe later in the story there will be one, and I'll end up just having it be that group that experimented on her, and they'll have info on her. Or I have my own unique thing. They're just a new group that's also a new area. I don't know which I'm going with yet, and depending on which I go with is going to depend on how much plot relevance she's going to get within the later plot. But I can't determine that until the later plot comes out. Some things I do want to happen within her plot, though, is that, one, I do think that a lot of the main cast, a lot of the Proxy's friends, are going to learn about, in a dramatic reveal type of way, are going to learn about her having an ethereal form. I definitely want, Pub Sec, or at least Shuichi, Seth, those people, and Section 6, and then probably Victoria Housekeeping, to be there when it gets revealed that she's an ethereal. But most likely I'm going to have a lot of the cast there. Why they're all there? Most likely I'm going to have it maybe be a big dramatic thing. Maybe they're all there for another reason. Most likely the proxy gathered them is what I'm going to have happen. But it could end up being a thing that's more centered on her. I don't know yet. it's all to be determined. This stuff is very iffy, but I do want something like that to happen. Exactly how it happens, I will figure that out in the later. But one thing I do want to happen prior to the big reveal is that some people, typically my favorite characters, from different factions, they all like got stuck in a hollow with her at a point in time, and she revealed to them so they don't waste resources that she isn't affected by ether, and depending on how long I choose to stern them in there, maybe they needed, they were short on food and she can eat corrupted food. Or most likely, it's just she doesn't need the ether resistance shots because we know they have those to help with the ether corruption and you can stay in a hollow longer. So she just doesn't need them using those on her because she genuinely just isn't effective. And she tells that group of people not the most comfortably, and Billy does go around and be like, you better not go around telling anybody about my daughter's condition. I'm watching you. He does go around threatening them after, but right now I just have Monato, Hugo, Seth, and Haramasa. I definitely want to keep Seth and Haramasa in those, but it may shift. Like I said, it's mostly my favorite characters. I don't think I'm gonna put, because I wanted generally one person from the extraction, but it's not like I'm also missing someone from the Defense Force, Belobog Industries, and now back when I initially made this scenario, it was prior to the Angels of the Legion stuff coming out, and Krampus I hadn't really thought about, so not we're gonna ignore those two factions, but I don't have like three factions in there, but I don't see why Osto or Eevee would be there. Same with the Bellabog Industries people. Granted, I have to come with convoluted reasons for these individuals to be there alone anyway, but I I'll work on it. But it's like my favorite characters because I see my favorite characters. That's what I'm doing. But those who I currently have are gonna learn prior, and they're keeping a secret. I feel like most of them are pretty straightforward why they would keep a secret. I think Seth just wouldn't tell because he's a sweetheart. Haramasa is also just a sweetheart and wouldn't tell. Madocho, three out of four of them are sweethearts, and we can just put that to the side as why they're not telling anyone. And then Hugo, I don't think he's that evil. I don't think he would rat on her. I think he'd keep it in mind if he ever needs help with something. He may hit her up, like someone's being corrupted and they need help, or her abilities could really come useful. I'm not even sure if he would do that. Like, Hugo is not a great, he's not a good guy, but he ain't really that evil either, so, yeah, no, I don't think any of them would rat on her, and I don't think she would have to worry about any of them ratting on her. So that's the general idea for them. So they would learn Second Hollow. She tells them because she doesn't want them wasting resources on them and they don't know when they're going to get out. She hasn't been able to sense a way out. And it also helps that she can be like, yeah, no, I can sense a lot of ethereal stuff, ether stuff, so maybe listen to me on which path we go down. Yada, yada, yada. Now for how I want the big reveal when everybody learns to happen is most likely something big happens, something, she has to absorb a ton of ether to help everybody. Or, and this is the slightly funner one, she gets captured by the organization that originally experimented on her. They put some sort of control collar on her, and they set her loose in the non-hollow areas. Billy and the Cunning Hares and everybody who already knows clearly doesn't want her getting hurt. But also they don't want her destroying the city also. But mostly they're trying to get her to calm down. They don't know why she's going on a rampage. She got kidnapped at some point. Yada yada. That is another way that she could get revealed. I don't know what I'm gonna do. It also depends on what ends up happening in plot in the canon. So I will see. I will see exactly what's gonna go down. Sorry about that. I actually moved my mouse around. Don't mind it. I just wanted to check how long we were in the recording. He popped up everything, but ignore that. Oh, one thing I do want to happen some point in time is Section 6 getting their hands on the old documents from when she was being experimented on in the lab. Because they have documents, or eventually they abandoned the lab that they experimented on her. Finding that lab and finding the old documents on her. I want that to happen in Section 6, and most likely after Haramasa knows it's her. But, the rest of Section 6 can't tell because they don't have any clear looks at her face, and none of them know her. Except Haramasa. But I think that's all for the general story beats that I'm probably going to go through. Like I said, a lot of the stuff that happens after what we know in canon is very susceptible to change. Anything that's in canon is generally susceptible to change if what I have going on right now is going to change the plot too much. And then her history is most likely not going to change. There's just a couple of facts that may shift, namely being what organization Cat kidnapped her and experimented on her for those 2 years. Here's some miscellaneous facts. Some of them I may have briefly mentioned in the main sections of the video, but these are just here, if I didn't get to them, didn't mention them, or I want to put more details in. So, generally, traumatized by doctors, hates them, doesn't ever go to them. Anyone who seems remotely scientisty, I'm pretty sure I mentioned that. She really doesn't like to think about her time in the lab. She's mostly blocked it out. It was a highly traumatizing moment for her. She's working through it right now, but things that remind her of it tend to set off an etheric reaction. She has frequent nightmares about it, and those do also tend to get ether corruption around. Another reason why they really needed to tell Nicole is that they didn't get to it prior to the thing. She doesn't really remember her time before the Hollow came about, so the 0 to 6 years when she lived with her mom, her dad, and her family. She doesn't really remember that. She does have a comfort stuffy, the bear I was mentioning. She's had that probably since she was born. She still has it. It is very old and ripped apart, and she either didn't take it with her to the lab, or she somehow kept it throughout her experience in the lab. Not too sure which I'm going to go with, but she's had that thing forever, and it is her favorite thing ever. It is her comfort stuffy. I already mentioned that. I'm going to bring that up. Yes, as you can see, because you'll be seeing the drawings and stuff, she wears very loose and covering clothes. Now, in her current day, technically it is short sleeves with a tighter fit for the long sleeve, but she wears generally looser clothes and very covering. So if ether crystals do break out, they're typically covered and you can't see them, so people can't tell. Now, as you can see, her hair covers her right eye, and that's because most of the time that's where crystals and corruption will start to show, so she keeps it covered. She does have a hair clip that she occasionally puts in to pull it out of her face, but typically she keeps it in her face in case, she starts breaking out in her eye. Weapon-wise, as you can see, she's got a gun and a knife. She can use gun, hand-to-hand, knife, or sword, because Billy trained her in the gun. Hand-to-hand, she got taught by Lighter, and then knife was just a general thing, and the sword she kind of practiced with Caesar in her younger years. Most of her combat stuff comes from her days with the Sons of Paladin, because that's where she kind of picked up on a lot of that, and they trained with her a lot, because I feel like that's something that they would do a lot. So that's her general weapons, that's what she likes. Her main cause of combat is her gun, and she tends to infuse her bullets with ether. So if we're going by unit type, she would most likely, if I'm gonna paint her in a unit manner, she would be like a 5-star ether, most likely an anomaly ether. Fairly similar to Shuyin. She'd most likely shoot quicker like Billy, like an ether Billy is probably what she'd be like, because she does fight a lot like Billy. She looked up to Billy forever. Billy turned into her super Starlight Knight fan. She also adores the Starlight Knights. Billy would watch it with her all the time while he was watching it, and she just loves Billy so much. She's like, he adores this, I'm gonna adore this. So she's also a super fan of the Starlight Knight. But yeah, no. Her main weapon is her gun. She tends to infuse her bullets with ether to do more damage. She can't control how much ether she infuses it with. Yada yada. So she does that. She does have the knife for if someone gets close. And she can do some basic hand-to-hand combat. Now, yes, and as I was saying, her old home in the Hollow is still there, so she goes back to the Hollow she used to live in. She can actually go and find her old place, and it's still intact and mostly exactly like how she left it. There's a few more crystals around than before, because she generally keep it clean of crystals, but that's about the only difference. She did study mechanics, mostly when she was in the Outer Ring. She watched them do repairs on Billy whenever he needed them. She studied herself, so if Billy got really hurt and he needed it, she'd repair him. I don't think she would have ever needed to employ these skills, but she is capable of doing basic mechanical repairs. She studied it in case Billy got hurt. Her hobbies tend to enjoy calmer things like reading, drawing, watching shows. Just it tends to be pretty chill. She does do a lot of meditation to try to make sure that when she's stressed, the ether won't go crazy because she doesn't want to accidentally corrupt people. Because it does happen occasionally where she'll corrupt people. She can, once she calms down and gets control of herself again, she can easily undo it. But she really doesn't like corrupting people. Her favorite color is red, also because of Billy. She adores him and red, and she really likes anything soft or fluffy. Um, Loves it. Her entire bed is covered. She's got like fuzzy blankets. She's got stuffed animals all over the place. She adores soft and fluffy stuff. Now she doesn't have a favorite food. I don't think she. I personally am giving her no particular favorite food. She used to eat whatever she could find while it was in the hollow. She does really enjoy good cooked meals opposed to prepackaged food because that's a lot of what she ate in the hollow. Now, granted, most food that isn't partially corrupted does taste much better than the corrupted version, so she's pretty happy with whatever she's fed. She tends to eat a lot of burgers because Envy takes her out to them all the time. Alright, so relationship-wise, I'm going to go down from like her biggest relationships to her smallest relationships, at least, generally at that point in canon. We'll start off with Billy, her father, her papa, who has her adoption is illegal because I assume that intelligent constructs who have passed the forbidden fruit test would probably be able to adopt children legally within New Eridu. I don't know, we're never told, but I think that would be permitted. So she is legally adopted by Billy. I don't think he did this right out of the gate. It probably only happened either when they moved into the city or like a couple of years after he first got her when she was more comfortable going to towns and spaces like that. Not entirely sure, but something like that. I've already gone over how he found her and stuff, so I'm not going to go over that again. Billy does have a protective streak on him with how he interacts with Alice, but one, it's kind of justified. She was so skittish as a kid, and she hasn't shooken off all of that skittishness that she has. So, but he's not overprotective. He's just very protective because of her general disposition. Um, Part of this came from the fact that when she was little, she'd spend basically all of her time hiding behind Billy whenever she got scared. She would run to him. Billy was her favorite person. Billy still is her favorite person. Now, whenever she gets like highly stressed or is really anxious, or especially when Crystal's a former, Billy will typically like put his jacket on top of her. It's like a nice, comforting, weighted blanket. It's not warm. Or would it be warm? He doesn't have body heat, but I wonder with all the machines running if he would have like a lot of heated metal that would then warm the jacket. I'm not sure. He puts his jacket on her to help comfort her, and like if any of her clothes or anything got torn during some period of time, it also covers any crystals that form. He carries her around all the time. He doesn't care that she's a full-grown adult now. He carried her around when she was a kid. He will carry her around now. That's his baby girl, no matter how old she is. She has gotten her skin pinched between his joints on multiple occasions. She's hugging him. He moves around too much. I'm pretty sure his joints, they're the pinch. I need to technically observe it a little more. They've got like the gaps in it and everything, but the joints I would assume have gaps so he can move. So she has gotten pinched by that occasionally, but she doesn't care that much about it. She likes hugging her dad. She doesn't care. They do regularly watch Starlight Night together. They watch at least one episode a day, if not multiple. Because I feel like Billy does watch at least one episode of Starlight Night a day, if not multiple. But yeah, no, Billy's like her favorite person. I had more written on him, but that's like how they met and everything. I already went over that earlier. Now Nicole. We're going to Nicole next. She to Alice is like a big sister kind of auntie type thing. Um, I already told you how she learned about the secret. She knows the secret. There's things happen. She felt really bad that she accidentally forced Alice and Billy to tell them about it. Like, her and Andy had inklings that something was up. Like, Billy had insisted she have her own space, and that whenever she clearly was having a nightmare in the middle of the night, Billy would not let them go in because she would have an ether breakout and there would be crystals around. Neither of them questioned. I think they would be respectful enough not to do that. They knew something was maybe up, and now they know. She does feel a little bad about forcing them to tell. Now, after that incident is when she promptly got medical records, documents, and ether stuff, like the ether cards and things like that, sorted out. So she has, like, Nicole got the fake documents done with, and she had them set. She did take Alice on, like, a shopping spree and then, like, a really nice meal after she forced, the other three went to the hospital, got themselves checked out. She then took Alice for a little shopping spree and meal as an apology for forcing her to tell them about the thing. Nicole does occasionally spoil her, but she mostly leaves that to Billy because Billy's her dad. Billy adores spoiling her. And that's the sum up for Nicole. They do like hanging out. I feel like I don't have enough here, like, but I'm also like, I don't know what more to put. I feel like I don't have enough in a lot of the ones, because her and Nicole are really close. Nicole is, in essence, her, like, I think Nicole fallen into an aunt, big sister type thing. Neko Mata, I'm gonna go for Ambi first. Neko doesn't join till later. Ambi, she knows the secret. She learned roughly at the same time as Nicole. Now, after they learned, so Nicole, after they learned, she still generally leaves it up to Billy, but she'll do so. I don't know exactly what Nicole would do with the nightmares, but she helps. She very feasibly sings a lullaby or does something. I haven't quite decided on what Nicole does. For Ambi, I feel like Ambi would go out and get her a burger almost every time. She's like, "Here's a burger. Calm down. Food." Um, Ambi falls solidly into Big Sister. For Alice, now after Nakamata joins the Cunning Hares, Ambi is very happy her and Alice never fought over Nicole's attention like her and Nakamata do, because, she's Billy's kid, not Nicole's kid. Ambi can be when anybody, this is for the three Cunning Hares, if anybody were to slightly learn or were to seem threatening to Alice, Billy and Ambi go into defensive states of "I'ma shoot you" or "I'ma stab you," and Nicole goes into discussion state "let me distract you." Like, that's what the trio does. Nekomata goes more into stabby state once she joins them. Although I think Neko might actually. I'm trying to think what exactly. I know I've thought of it before, but now I've forgotten. Oh well. Now, Neko, more recent, she does learn. Like, after Nakamata had been a part of the Cunning Hares for a little bit, they like her, they trust her. She was told. Um, she freaked out a little bit after learning, but she's also like, it's not contagious. She's not going to corrupt them. It's chill. Now, I haven't told you about their super secret escape plan, AK, which stands for Escape Plan Alice Kid, which is if they run into something they don't like using it. All of them are against it. Alice was the one who came up with it and decided that it was a viable option occasionally. She did convince them to use it if needed, which it's essentially if they run into an ethereal or something that seems super tough and they can't escape, she's going to turn to an ethereal form and distract it, or she'll do something in her human form to distract it, because she's pretty tough in her ethereal form, and she also has a better sense around the hollows, so they will leave her behind to find an escape route. They don't like this plan. None of them like the plan, but it's a plan that they have because it technically will work. They don't really use it because they don't run into a situation where they need to any time, but it is a plan that is within their roster. Their least favorite plan, so it's on the bottom of the list. Now, Nakamata and her are more like, I think they would be more even in their age thing. They would just be kind of sisters. I don't think they'd have a big sister or a little sister thing. They just same age type thing. Um, so I think that's how her and Neko would be. Now, Caesar, I think, would thoroughly fall into being her big sister. They used to spar all the time. Caesar grew very protective of her because she was very skittish when she was a little kid, and that's just Caesar for you. Caesar, the knife that she currently has, it was a gift from Caesar when she left the Sons of Kaladin. And like they're really close. They used to like read the little romance mangas together all the time. They would paint each other's nails occasionally and stuff. You know, they do cute little girly things together. They'd have fun. Later, Caesar met her, you know, when she got brought back from the Hollow by Billy. Probably the same for Lighter if he was around back then. If not, Lighter met her whenever he joined up with the Sons of Caladon. Really depends on when he showed up. Out of all the people she'll go to, if she's scared or wants protection, it goes Billy Lighter. He's the second one that she goes to if she is scared. And then probably Big Daddy right after those ones. And then it probably goes to like Caesar, if they're around, of course. Probably goes to like Caesar, Ambi, Nicole, Piper, Bernice, Lucy. Out of like the Sons of Caladon and Cunning Hairs. Neko's probably at the bottom of the list because she just doesn't know Nekomata as well. Along with Lucy. She doesn't know Lucy that well because she was only in the area for like a year. Caesar, of course, knows. She's saw her break out in Ether quite often in the early days. Same with Lighter. He also saw her break out into Ether a lot. He taught her a lot of hand-to-hand combat for defense, and he also helped her get more acclimated to grown-looking humans. At least I'm going with he's a bit older than the rest of them. Bernice, again, I don't know if she was around with the Sons of Kaladin back when Billy would have brought her back. If she was, they met then. If not, she met them when she joined up with the Sons of Kaladin. Bernice does learn back when she was out in the Outer Ring. She broke out a lot more because she was much less good at regulating her emotions and much less good at keeping it intact. And she did freak out a lot more around people. Alice did avoid her for a while. Bernice just had too much energy. Billy is high energy, but I think he would have toned it down for his kid a little bit. And even if he's high energy, she doesn't mind. It's Billy. It's her dad. Bernice was a little much for her at first, but she eventually grew to adore Bernice because her and Billy could be quite similar at times within how much energy they gave out. Now, if Bernice was younger and they knew each other when we were younger. And I don't know if there's actually that many serious drinking laws over in New Eridu. I don't know if they've mentioned them or not. But if not, her and Bernice probably snuck nitro fuel together. Like Bernice would sneak her some nitro fuel just for the fun of it. And they would have it together occasionally. And if there's not drinking laws, they probably just drank it together occasionally. Piper. She loves having tea with Piper. Piper's super chill. Piper solidly falls into Big Sister along with Bernice. Yeah, I think they would both be Big Sister. Lighter would either be Big Brother or Uncle. Not too sure which, but that's where Lighter would fall. Piper loves drinking tea with her. They're super chill. She adjusted to Piper fairly quickly. Piper is Big Sister or Auntie because, you know, Piper likes being old. I don't know if she's actually old or if she just, like, sees herself as old. I don't know which one it is for Piper. Lucy, Piper, I assume was there when Billy brought her back. Again, with everyone else, she learned at some point while she was there, most likely because she had a breakout at some point in time. Or she was just there when Billy brought her back from the Hollow, and he informed quite a few people then. Not everybody, but you know, those who were closer to him. Now, Big Daddy knew about her before Billy brought her back from the Hollow, and Big Daddy met her officially when Billy brought her back from the Hollow. He knows the secret. He kind of knew about it prior anyway. She was honestly, she wasn't super intimidated by Big Daddy. He was just some Borthyran, and frankly, she's been living around Hollow's ethereals forever, so I don't think she'd find him that intimidating. He is like her grandpa, the old man of the group. She loves getting piggyback rides for him. They don't do it that much anymore. She only did it when she was younger, but she used to get piggyback rides for him all the time. and he's like her grandpa. Now Lucy, she knows Lucy the least. Lucy did teach her how to do makeup. Lucy doesn't. I'm on a debate on whether Lucy does or doesn't know this secret. I don't know if to let her know because she joined later. We do know that it seems like she joined much later than everybody else. Right now, I'm going with about a year before she went into the city. I don't know if Lucy would have witnessed anything or if they would have told Lucy at some point about Alice's secret. I'm not too sure where I am on whether or not Lucy knows. I'm gonna go for now that she does know, because I generally have the thought in my mind that all the Sons of Kaladin know, except Pulchra, because she joined way too late. Um, and then her and Pulchra don't know each other that well, because I don't even know if Pulchra. I think Pulchra's met Billy, maybe. I don't even know if they've met, so she doesn't really know Pulchra that well. Of course, Lucy met her when she joined the Sons of Kaladin. And like I said, I'm not too sure if she does or doesn't know the secret. I'm going to go with yes for now. And they have a more sisterly dynamic. Lucy taught her like a lot more manner type things because that's just Lucy, and like how to do her makeup and everything because I think that's what Lucy would do, and I think they'd have fun doing that. All right, the next people I will be talking about are our favorite twins, Wise and Belle. Actually, I don't know if they're confirmed to be twins. I know they're confirmed to be related, but I don't know if they're confirmed to be twins. Our favorite proxies, Nathan. So we'll go about, I mean, Wise and Belle are basically the same in how they interact with her, and how her relationship with them. You know, they first met when she met Belle and Wise, whenever the rest of the Cunning Hares met Belle and Wise. They all met at the same time. She's very friendly with them. They're good friends. You know, they got the relationship that the Cunning Hares have. Now, she is pretty okay with Wise and Belle learning her secret, but she's not telling them her secret. So they don't know, and she's not going to tell them, but she's not going to be, like, very upset if they do learn. And she's very friendly with all of their babus, 18, 20, EOS. She's very friendly with all of them. Now, we're getting into characters that she's going to meet within canon, and that their entire relationships are iffy. Now, she is most likely going to have a love interest. I don't know who to pick. Quick backstory on a little bit of her initial creation. When she was initially created, she was a Haramasa love interest. I don't know about that anymore. Because I'm on debate between him and Seth, and this may change within the future. It depends on how her story develops and how things go by. She may end up with no official love interest within the canon of her story. I don't know yet, but initially she was supposed to be a Haramasa love interest. Because I don't know if you remember back when Haramasa initially came out and we didn't know his whole backstory and we just had his trailer and everything. Because her initial concept came from the fact that it seemed like Haramasa may also have some sort of ethereal related corruption or something along those lines. That's where it came from his trailer and all the fun little theories we had about him back before he was officially released. Still loved Haramasa's thing, but that's like the conception of it and where it all came from. So that's her little backing detail. So her love interest may be Seth or Haramasa or neither of them. I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet. But you can keep that in mind as I go over them. So she will be having met all these characters at some point. Mostly it's the characters who are relevant to her later in the story. I wanted her to meet all the people who will learn her secret earlier. Now, Seth, she met at some point when he was, at Chop Juniors for a midnight, or, well, technically after shift snack. She was there. She's either there for a snack herself, just wandering alone, or, and this is the funner one, the Cunning Hares were doing some sort of scam, and she is there to work for the scam, and she just strikes up a conversation with Seth because, one, talking to someone, she was bored, or it was going to help with her cover and hide from some stuff. One way or the other, I think it's funny if she's working on an illegal scam as she meets Seth. It just sounds silly. And then they'll be friendly with each other. I don't have too much on how they're going to interact. I haven't thought too deeply about it because I also don't know too much on how I want this to go down within the plot and all that. Once I get more plot, I'll think it out more. But Haramasa, She, I think, should meet him. They both meet them in Lumia Square. He's trying to get off of work. He's kind of trying to hide from Yanagi. She helps him. They like maybe hang out in the movie theater or something as she, like Yanagi came around looking for him. She notices he's trying to hide, and she just like gets 2 tickets for her movie and drags Haramase with her or something along those lines. I think that'd be like a fun little meeting. She helps him hide from Yanagi, or they could just run into each other in Lumia Square. However works. I don't have this concretely down right now, but I think that would be a fun way for them to meet. Now, for the Spook Shack, and by the Spook Shack, I don't mean Lucy and Hara, I mean Alice, Yuzuha, and Monato. She meets all of them during the resort event when the Cunning Hares come over. Because, they go to the resort, she's going to meet them there. Lucy thought, Alice wants to make a lot of friends. She's pretty friendly. Lucy introduced her to Alice, and through that she got to meet Yuzuha and Monato, and well, part of the reason Lucy introduced her to Alice is because they're both Alice. They share the same name. So, and then that's how she meets the Spook Shack members. Now for Hugo is that she has visited the art gallery he has before, and then he was at his art gallery at that time. The art gallery he has. So that's how she's met Hugo. I think she would have only interacted with him one time because I don't think he's actually actively at the art gallery that much. She's seen Robin a handful of times because I think Robin's at the art gallery a lot more. I could be wrong, but she's seen Robin a lot, and she knows Robin because of that. She goes to the art gallery and she sees Robin there. Promia, she doesn't have much of a relationship with her. She just met her during, what happened in 2.8, and then Promea's saw her partially transformed. I don't think she'd be doing anything with it because she just, she saw crystals and they went away. So something happened, or she was hallucinating. Promea's not entirely sure, and I don't think she'd be looking into it because I don't think she'd see it as that important. Romeo, maybe looking into it a little bit, or at least keeping it more in the forefront of her mind than Promea is. But she also saw her partially transform. But that's the extent of how they know each other, them interacting. That, I think, covers most of her important relationships, at least the ones I noted down. I hope I'm not missing any. The game story's not finished yet, and I gotta learn more about that. I do need to flesh out a lot of her relationships more, and how she's gonna interact with some characters a bit more, because I have, like, vague concepts right now. There's definitely a lot of work to be done on her, but it is what it is. Ooh, let me talk about the art I have. I think I've probably popped them up somewhere throughout the video, but like I have 4 things drawn out for her right now. Technically, I have 5. I have an old design of her, which you can see right now. You can see how I've redesigned her since then, but that was like the original concept I had for her. It's changed since then. Like the green. Her design is, a lot of it's her old outfits from when she was in Caledon, and then the green hair and the purple in her hair are from the ether corruption. Her hair was initially black. Same with the color of her eyes. I don't know what her original eye color is yet. I haven't decided that. But that's all from the ether corruption. It does have some physical signs on her human form of the ether corruption, which is the green hair with the purple overtaking her natural black tone. As you'll see within her younger form, when she was in the Sun of Talon, she had a lot more black because she had absorbed a lot less ether at that point. Then within her slightly older form, most of the black is gone, but there's still a little bit. And then, once we get to her current form and the kind of like base thing I have for it, you can see there's no more black in her hair. For each one, her Sons of Paladin's Day, she's having a little fun. She's a happy kid. She became happy. She's happy she's there. Just chilling with the second one's just like, chilling with the Cunning Hares, having fun. Very feasibly doing like a cute little pose for a Starlight Night thing. Don't have it thought out that deeply. The one falling into the ether, I think it was just a really, really cool little concept to do for her, as especially if for future. And when we get to like her deeper plot, and like if I go down the route of her being like forced to fight them. That's like her sinking into her subconscious as the mind control brainwash thing takes over. Like that was kind of the thought process that one, and I think I really liked it. And then of course just concept stuff for her, like her front, back, what she looks like and stuff. I'm liking it so far. I may end up changing the outfit at some time. Oh, as you see through the different years, she had slightly different outfits because she hasn't stuck to one the entire time. But as you can see, she's got like baggy pants. She's got the baggy shirt, but then she's got a more skin tight undershirt. Under that, she's fully covered all the way up to the neck. She does have a mask that she could put on occasionally. She doesn't wear it all the time, but if she's like feeling very stressed or she just wants to cover up more, she will wear that. And you can see the little hairpin that she uses to put her hair aside when she wants to. I really, really like the way she's ended up being designed. I gave her really spiky hair because of the ether crystals and everything. I really like that. Um, she wears gloves in case, ether crystals. Like I said, she's very covered up. She has boots. She's just got the one gun. She just uses one. That's what I've gone for so far. I may end up giving her two. She just fully copies Billy within how she fights, but I don't want to do that, so she's not going to do that. But yeah, no. I think that's the sum up of it all. Again, thank you so much for watching this very long video about the OC that I can't wait to do more with her. But may you have a blessed rest of your day.